In March 2018, we opened our doors to the public with a vision not just to create challenging professional theatre, but to use this as a platform to inspire and bring communities together. Theatre and culture build identity. With theatre and culture in our local life, the community landscape is more vibrant. Local life is enriched. We believe that the benefits of theatre should be available for everyone. Our Theatre for All programme has removed financial barriers, giving disadvantaged people access to the theatre free of charge.
So we were told that we'd come here and have a Christmas meal and then go and watch A Christmas Carol.
Our aim is to make live professional theatre available to everyone and use that experience for positive change. Theatre can be transformational in young lives. Our academy is now in its 4th year, and we continue to build on our vision of bringing the best performing arts tuition to the heart of the Cotswolds. We work hard to make our academy as inclusive and as accessible as possible. Discounts apply for parents with more than one child. Our bursaries help support talented children from less affluent backgrounds. The Academy creates a fun and challenging environment where children can build friendships and develop key skills not just for theatre, but for life. We are also able to provide real opportunities for students who wish to pursue careers in the arts.
My name is Harry Apps. I am currently playing Marius in Les Miserables in the West End.
Barn outreach and learning programmes engage with thousands of people. Our free workshops support the drama curriculum in local schools. Singing and musical theatre workshops in community groups and care homes have helped address issues of isolation. Our Song for Cirencester project in aid of mental health charities brought our community together in an unprecedented way. We've collaborated with many charities in the region, including the Churn Project, to support individuals dealing with the barriers to finding work.
Since working with you, my life's changed. It's given me some purpose, given me an interest, some confidence I was lacking prior to all this.
The Barn Theatre played a pivotal role in the town's 2018 World War I centenary celebrations. Who could forget our record-breaking Human Poppy? Our live streaming work on the annual Advent Festival helped thousands engage and take part in Cirencester's Christmas festivities. In these times of uncertainty, we strive to keep the community together. The theatre may be temporarily closed, but our commitment to you goes on. Even now, our amazing costume department are helping the NHS by making scrubs for frontline workers. We've used our technology to build a free live streaming service that provides much needed community news and entertainment for all the family, broadcasting every day to keep us all connected. We are not just a theatre. We are the Barn.
Good afternoon and welcome to Cotswold District Council, live here from the Barn Theatre in Cirencester. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Councillor Joe Harris and I am the leader of Cotswold District Council and your host today. I'm joined today by the Deputy Leader of the Council, Mike Evemy. He's also responsible for the Council's finances. First of all, a big thank you to the Barn Theatre again for hosting us today. You saw that amazing video in the while you were waiting for us. A really inspirational organisation here in the heart of Cirencester, so please do check out some of the things that they're doing, and of course check out the Barn Theatre's Facebook page, where a whole range of new media, shows, Q&A sessions like this are available for you to watch and for your enjoyment. A really fantastic organisation and have really, really diversified in these difficult times. I want to start by saying a big thank you again to all of our NHS workers, both in the area and across the country. I want to say a big thank you to our care workers, to our council staff, and to all the key workers who are working so hard to make sure that services continue to function in these really, really difficult times. I also want to say today, happy birthday to Her Majesty the Queen. Obviously undermined by the whole coronavirus, but a fantastic achievement. Whether you're a monarchist or not, an amazing, amazing reign, and happy birthday to Her Majesty. We're going to be with you today for between 45 minutes and an hour. And we're going to do something slightly different today because clearly the biggest issue at the minute is business grants. We're going to have a discussion on that and we're going to take some questions, some pre-prepared questions before we go to our live Q&A towards the end of the show. But we'll be majoring on business grants and answering questions on that. And Mike will go into a bit more detail on that. We're also going to have our Community Champions feature where we're joined by the Mayor of Tetbury, Councillor Nikki. She's going to be updating us on what's been happening in Tetbury with the volunteer effort there. We're also going to be, again, our Keeping Busy During Coronavirus section. We're going to be hearing from psychotherapist, Dr. Natasha, and she'll be telling us about how we can ensure that our mental health stays as well as it can be in these difficult times. We'll have an update on the waste service, and we're also be taking live Q&As, as I just mentioned, towards the end of the programme. So make sure that you get your questions in and respond to anything that we've said throughout the course of the show. It's important that we recognise when things don't go to plan, and I think that's been the case over the last week with the rollout of the business grants scheme. This is an unprecedented time, and it really has been one of the biggest things the council has ever had to roll out. And unfortunately, the payments haven't been made on the timescales that we initially outlined. And for that, I want to say a big, bold, and comprehensive sorry. We messed up. And I think it's important that as a council, we're honest about that. But it must be seen in the context of what we're dealing with. So I'm joined here by Councillor Mike Evemy, who I mentioned is my deputy and responsible for the finances. So Mike, can you just talk us through the whole business grants rollout and what we've had to do as a council and where some of the issues have occurred?
Sure. So for everyone watching at home, just to remind you that the Chancellor announced these grants to small businesses in receipt of the Small Business Rate Relief Fund and the Rural Rate Relief Fund, and for those businesses in the hospitality and leisure sectors and retail sectors on the 17th of March. At the time when he announced that, he didn't, and they are either of £10,000 or £25,000. So, realising they're potentially very important grants for businesses who are clearly many businesses struggling, particularly in those sectors that I identified, and therefore in need of these grants. So he announced that on the 17th of March. Unfortunately, at the time, he didn't give the details. That came on the 23rd of March, nearly a week later. And then the money arrived in our accounts and in councils across the country on the 1st of April. We, as many businesses will know, we're used to collecting money. We're not used to giving out large amounts of money to organisations in this way, in bulk. And I think the apology I would like to add to what you said, Joe, I think in many ways it's our ambition was beyond our ambition to get the money to people as quickly as we could, in some cases led to us making over-ambitious promises to people. And I will wholeheartedly apologise to businesses who feel that we've over-promised and under-delivered, and I'm very sorry for that. But I want to reassure businesses and people across the district that our officers have been working very, very hard to get this money out to all our businesses that are eligible for them. And just to give you some of the challenges that they've been dealing with, we're looking at giving grants to something like 2,800 businesses across the whole district. It's a total of £37 million. And our officers need to do due diligence to make sure that the people who we're giving those grants to are eligible for them, to make sure that we don't give them to fraudsters, because fraudsters look at opportunities for money like this and seek to game systems. They know that this is not something we normally do, so they're looking for holes in councils' processes across the country. So our officers have been working really hard to do that. They have had challenges that the software that we use to collect business rates, the modification couldn't be made in time for them to use that software. so they've been having to use the normal payment system that the council uses. So I'm really sorry that we haven't got the grants out to people as quickly as they would have hoped. We have now, as I sit here on Tuesday afternoon, processed in excess of £22 million of grants going out to businesses across the district. So we're getting on just 64% of the way there. And clearly we're going to continue to process all the grants as they come through. One of the challenges that we're now facing is lots of businesses clearly are looking around for sources of funding and putting in applications who aren't eligible. I completely understand why they're doing that, but that just slows the process down for all of the eligible business as well. As well, obviously we've got to check all the details. But happy to take further questions, Joe, I'm sure you will have for me from people across the district.
Thank you, Mike. And a really useful sort of explanation and a bit of background. Clearly doesn't negate some of the tough times that people are facing, but really helps give us a bit of background as to what we're talking about. A couple of people have asked a question sort of around other councils have had payments within a few days of it happening. I think Cheltenham's a good example, and some other councils nearby. So why has it taken a bit longer, or considerably longer in Cotswold's case, to get payments out and processed?
I can't speak about other councils. It may well be that they are on the other major software provider for this revenues and benefits. And I understand that the other provider provided the software update much faster than ours was able to. And obviously they were therefore able to make those payments through their normal billing systems. I suspect that's why they've received their money faster. We were, just to reassure people, we and other councils were putting pressure on our software provider for that patch, as we call it, to be able to make those changes, but that didn't actually appear in the software until the 9th of April. So we took a decision before that we needed to start getting the money out to businesses. So we were having to set up a manual process from scratch. I suspect the other councils that were able to start faster than that were able to do it through their existing systems. Thanks,
Mike. In terms of, a number of people applied, I think before the 2nd of April, wasn't it? And a number of those people have been paid. But for people that haven't, who put forms in sort of before that time, for people that got them in before the 2nd of April, I think that we were saying, and still haven't had anything, what's your sort of advice to them? They're probably quite rightly concerned that they haven't had a payment yet.
Yeah, so as of today, so Tuesday 21st, people who we will have processed all the forms that we have up until the 9th of April, of which there's no query or hasn't bounced back through the BACS transfer. So if you put your form in and we haven't made contact with you to say there's been a problem with your question for you, or that there's been a problem with your bank details, then you should get in touch with us at revenues@cotswold.gov.uk or ring us on the normal number, and you'll get through to a dedicated line for people dealing with business rates. But I want to reassure, our officers are working through all of them as fast as they can, but they're having to make sure that everyone who gets the money is eligible for the money, and that we're not sending it anywhere we shouldn't be.
Just in terms of the the language that we use. So in terms of processing, what does that mean? Does that mean payments en route? Does that mean everything's signed off, happy days, money's on its way, or
so
to be as clear as we can?
Once it's completed the process with Cotswold District Council, that means we are then sending that to the bank in what's called a BACS bulk credit. And when we send them to the bank, so payments that we're sending to the bank today should be in people's accounts on Thursday, and they should see in tomorrow that it's coming in on Thursday. That's my understanding of how the process works. So it's 2 working days after we send it to the bank is when it appears in your account, normally I think in the early hours of the morning.
Sure. Mike, thank you very much. And I think just to sort of round off, we'll come back to this when we come to the live Q&A. I've got a few questions trickling in already, and we will make sure as many of those get answered as possible. But if you are having difficulty, if you've been waiting a long time, don't hesitate to email either Mike or I. My email address is joe.harris@cotswold.gov.uk. Mike's is mike.evemy@cotswold.gov.uk. So yes, go through the channels, but if you're really, really concerned, please don't hesitate to pop me an email, Mike an email. We will get that forwarded to the team and as soon as possible and get you an update. And thank you to everybody who has done that over the past few days. And again, our apologies that there have been some issues around that. Marvellous. We're going to go now to our Community Champions feature. This week we are focusing on Tetbury in the south of our district, and again another example where the community has really, really pulled together. I was joined earlier by Councillor Nikki, who is the Mayor of Tetbury and also a District Councillor for Tetbury. Here's the interview I did with Nikki earlier. Nikki, thanks for joining us. I know in Tetbury that the community's really rallied together and really come together at this really difficult time to help each other out and to help tackle the coronavirus. Can you just give us an overview of what's been happening in Tetbury and how things have come together?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me on, Joe. We really wanted to let the district know, specifically as a town council, how amazing our community has been, entirely voluntary. Just the week before the lockdown, when we could start to see people isolating, one of our local residents, Sarah Carney, created the Tetbury COVID-19 Mutual Support Group. It's an amazing group, a web of volunteers throughout the town. There are now over 1,100 members. And I met with Sarah along with Ken White from the Tetbury Lions Club. And we were able to coordinate a leaflet which was printed for us by a local company and then delivered by our Royal Mail local delivery office to every house. And that leaflet really set us on a good footing. We had government advice along with a local mobile number and email to use for local support. And then it grew from there, really. Sarah's team have turned into prescription teams. So we have a team that go out specifically to pick up prescriptions and deliver, shopping teams, and it's turned into a sort of buddy scheme where people are allocated, people in their locality or street, and they keep an eye on them. And things are going really well. From that point of view, alerts go out if something's needed, and really very quickly somebody picks that up.
That sounds excellent. And how many? You mentioned that you've got sort of 1,100 members of your group. How many sort of active volunteers have you got? Is volunteering sort of?
I'm not really sure. Some people are picking odd bits up. It's I'm pretty sure that Sarah would be better able to sort of confirm, but I think we've probably got more volunteers than need at the moment. I think there are lots of people who are not necessarily coming through that group either. So people who will be looking after their neighbours anyway, so they haven't had to contact anybody. But it's been great for picking up people who may have other issues, and we're trying to reinforce the message to come through the Gloucestershire Community Hub, because that way everything can be picked up and sort of triaged properly, to make sure that people have the right services that they're entitled to and that they need. But from a short-term point of view, we can normally deal with things on a short-term basis, whether that be meals or shopping or financial assistance via the Tetbury Relief and Need charities. So they've been very supportive in all of this as well.
And what would you say the main challenges are over the coming days, weeks, and even months? Is there a sort of particular issue that you're seeing?
Well, I think from a long-term point of view, I think people need to know where to be signposted to. They need to know who they need to contact. And we need to remember that not all of our older people use social media. So phone numbers are really important. Contact with your neighbours are really important, and if you're really concerned, knowing where you can go to get that help. From a local business point of view, we've been extremely fortunate. Our businesses have adapted themselves. We've got Colcott Manor, who have been providing in the area free food to vulnerable people. We have the grocer on Church Street, who seems to be able to source anything we're running low on. He goes on a mission and sources things. And then the Priory Inn have completely changed their business and become a not only takeaway delivery food, but a delivery service. So they have grocery boxes which are being sent, you can order and delivered completely with social distancing to your house. Meat boxes from Jessie Smith's. bread from Hobbs House Bakery, cakes from Hall's Bakery, meat, vegetables and fruit from the market, and Godsall's cheese, a cheese box. There are all sorts of boxes you can have using local suppliers to try and help those businesses as well. So people have really changed the way they think.
It sounds absolutely fantastic, and I tell you what, when we get back to some sort of normality, I hope some of these initiatives are going to continue. It sounds fantastic. You know, you get a box. See, it sounds like you can get a box for every occasion in Tetbury. That's absolutely fantastic. Nikki.
Well, yes, at Easter he even got chocolate for us. Wow. There were chocolate boxes for Easter.
Fantastic, Nikki. Thanks for sort of overviewing what's happening in Tetbury. We've seen some fantastic examples around the Cotswolds of how communities are coming together. Just finally, you mentioned a few names there. Is there anybody or any groups in particular you want to give a big shout out to?
Yeah, so really it's Sarah Carney and all of those volunteers within that COVID-19 group, and particularly Councillor Martin Lee, who at the start of this, we had a meeting and we appointed Martin as our lead councillor for the crisis. So Martin has worked tirelessly, very closely with Sarah, fed back to the town council or Tetbury Relief in Need charities or myself. We've all been in very close contact to just try and make sure that we are capturing all of our residents, all of our community, and we don't want to leave anyone out. So we're trying our best. And as I say, if anyone really needs to refer somebody, please go to the Gloucestershire County Council Hub first. But short term, shout out to us and we will find a solution.
Nikki, thank you so much for joining us and giving us a bit of an update about Tetbury and everything that's going on. And just a reminder that if you want to access the Gloucestershire Help Hub, visit www.gloucestershire.gov.uk and you'll find the details on there. Nikki, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Joe.
That was Nikki in there, the Mayor of Tetbury, telling us about the fantastic work that is happening in the community down there. And I want to put a plea out. We want to hear from your local community. We want to understand and we want to share with the public across the Cotswolds what's going on in your community. So if you know of somebody that's going above and beyond the call of duty, if you know of a volunteer group or other charities, please get in touch with us and share those with us. We'd really love to feature them on this show and give them a bit of the attention and credit that they deserve. So please do get in touch if you've got any examples of that. Now, a key thing during these difficult and unprecedented times is ensuring that we all stay healthy, not just physically, but also mentally healthy. I had a catch-up earlier with Dr. Natasha Connor, who's a psychotherapist based here in the Cotswolds, about ensuring that people's mental health stays as healthy as it can be. Here's that interview. I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Natasha Connor, who is a clinical child psychologist based here in the Cotswolds. Natasha, obviously these are really difficult times for many people, being stuck indoors, often with their families, and in some instances in proper isolation on their own. Can you just give us a bit of an overview of what people might be thinking, what people might be feeling at the minute?
Yeah, well, I think suddenly to have to change our lifestyles the way we have that has an enormous impact. We're social beings as humans, so to suddenly have that taken away from us and have our routines and our daily life can make even those of us who don't suffer with anxiety or low mood suddenly become anxious and low. So, for example, worrying about COVID-19, having those sort of health anxieties, worrying about the future, all of those things suddenly are coming into play in a way that they may not have done if we were continuing with our normal lives. People can feel, obviously, if they're living alone, can suddenly feel very lonely and isolated, not seeing their family, not seeing friends, and also not having the usual human contact that we have when we go out and about. So things like that do have a massive impact on our mental health.
So Natasha, what can people do in the comfort of their own homes to try and make sure that their mental health is as good as it can be, both at the minute and crucially when we get back to some sort of normality, hopefully in a few weeks' time?
Sure. Well, I guess one of the first things, which nothing I'm going to say I don't think is it's not rocket science, but one of the things that we lose initially is our structure. So for most of us, we might be going out for to work or school or have that kind of structure, and we suddenly lose that. So it's really, really important to keep a daily routine. It's important for our mental health to have that routine of getting up, getting dressed. And I know that sounds really sort of minor, but actually it is really important. If we don't have those routines, we can lose focus. So having a structure to our day, exercise, if you can, is again really important for our mental health. We know it chemically has an impact on our mental health. If you've got a garden, if you've got a balcony, do try and get out. And obviously the government is allowing people to exercise once a day, but equally one can exercise in one's own home. One of the things that psychologists we're sort of seeing a lot of is worry. When we're on our own, particularly, and we're less distracted, we're much more likely to worry about things and ruminate. So in other words, the worry goes round and round in our heads. If we're in normal life, we might chat with friends and family about those worries, and so have somebody to bounce those ideas off. If we're on our own, those worries are more likely to sort of take hold. And there's some strategies that can be quite helpful, some psychological strategies that come from cognitive behavior therapy that people may or may not know about, that we can use to help us with those worries. So for example, big bit of paper, write down your worries. What are the things that we can control in our lives, and what are the things that we can't? And it might be helpful to write those in two bubbles. So for example, what we can control is how our attitude, how much we choose to access social media,